and it's time for us to start our workshop for today, Monday, January 13th, 2020, 1 p.m. So I'm calling the workshop to order, and please stand for the pledge of the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And to start with, we do our moment of silence. We ask God to bless all the citizens of Flagler County, and especially our men and women in the military around the world standing to watch to maintain our freedom. Here at home, our brave first responders, including police, firemen, emergency medical personnel, keep us safe, away from danger, and secure in our homes. With that, we'll start the meeting, and our first item that we come to now is the I hate to even say this, fiscal year 21 budget guideline discussion. So we're just finished the other one. It's time to start our next budget. So who's going to be the initial presenter?
Mr. Chair, that's me, John Brower, Financial Services. Today is I'm sitting over here to have a less formal workshop on just to start the budget off, and the idea is to speak with you about what we know, how you guys want to move forward with the budget process for FY21, and of course, at any time you could add or modify this list. First, I'd like to thank the budget team. We're about half staff right now. Brian Eichinger sitting next to me, and Miss Lacey Martin sitting behind me. The whole budget team working forward for you guys. So budget guidelines, as we understand them to be, at least at this point, is to decrease the millage rate 0.1 mil again this year, similar to what we did last year. That'll bring us down from 8.1297 to 8.0297. We're going to maintain reserves at 5% of operating revenue for the general fund. We're going to work towards, we have a short-term goal to budget 10% of the operating revenues as estimated ending fund balance, and that's really for financial stability and liquidity, especially in the beginning of the fiscal year. The best practices for fund balance is 2/12 or 16.67%, which would be for us about $14 million. Communities that have extra potential for bad things that happen, like hurricanes, coastal communities like us, it can be recommended to be up to 3/12, which would bring it to that $20 million number I mentioned in the earlier presentation.
Don, how do you distinguish that from reserves?
The ending fund balance is basically not budgeted. It's protected in a way that it will never be part of allocation to be budgeted. And it's so we would show, say, beginning fund balance to be, say, 15 million, and we wanted to do that $10 million to protect it for liquidity. We would do, it's like a contra revenue account. We do a negative 10 million to protect that 10 million from being allocated out in the budget. And so we would actually show our fund balance as being 5 million. What that allows us to be completely transparent as we, budget everything in the book and show everybody all the money we have, instead of just not budgeting that in the first place.
Well, as an accounting move, why don't we just move it into reserves?
I'm not an accountant. It's a way to show it in the budget that we recognize that money does exist. I've been part where we had big amount of fund balance, and we only budgeted a small amount because we didn't want to show all that big fund balance.
Well, I understand what you're doing. I'm just kind of curious why we don't call it, because it's really what it is. It's money that could be spent. It is in fact a reserve. Well, so I mean, I'm not an accountant either, but I'm a money manager. So,
and Mr. Chair, the naming configurations, I think we're kind of saying the same thing. For me, fund balance is more of a revenue, reserves are an expenditure. We can certainly budget all the beginning fund balance, put all of it in reserves.
Just as long as I understand what it is. Thank you.
Okay. So our one-time sources will be allocated towards one-time expenses. So If we have, want to add an FTE, which will be in perpetual expenditures year after year, we don't want to use our fund balance or a one-time grant money that we thought we were going to get. We want to make sure we have ongoing revenues to fund that. One-time revenues, of course, would be fund balance. We could use those for like capital projects, those types of things. This year, I wanted to add was FY20 was the first year in many years, my understanding, that we did not have to issue tax anticipation notes for liquidity. We were able to keep our fund balance high enough to where we can get through that initial kind of 6-8 weeks before the revenue starts coming in from the ad valorem, and by doing so, issuing those TANs cost the county roughly around $60,000. So, I mean, that goes right into the fund balance that we didn't have to spend. We also want to maintain the current funding allocations for our small county surtax revenue, which is currently all going to help support the jail, and our state's half-cent sales tax revenue as well. We have about 1.7 million of that being used for debt service currently, and then the rest of that, about 1.1 million, goes into the general fund to help for general revenues for general expenditures. We're estimating very unofficial, very general sense of about 5% increase in taxable property value for moving into FY21. That totals out to be around $2.6 million if you consider that we will be reducing the millage rate to 0.1 millage. That's at 95%, so about $2.6 million additional just for the increase in property tax revenue.
Quick question on that.
Yes, sir.
What's the date at which that locks in? In other words, as we go towards the budget year, at what point does that 5% number or the taxable property value increase, at what date does that lock?
We get a preliminary taxable value from the property appraiser on July 1st. They're certified by July 1st. Okay. June 1st, they give us a good number, but July 1st is actually the certified one we go forward with.
Okay.
The, okay, 5-year estimated taxable property value. Create a 5-year CIP with the first year funded. We have a 5-year CIP that we have created. I don't think there's been a lot of focus on that, but what it allows it to do is it's a planning tool, so we can see things that are coming up instead of just kind of throwing things together each year. It helps with the financial impacts, our operating, plan for those for operating and maintenance issues, and also it's a communication tool for public relations and economic development. The estimated, we have a resolution that passed quite a few years ago that says we're going to increase or give the employees a COLA, cost of living allowance, based on the CPI for the previous year. We're still waiting on the final number for December, but it's looking like the CPI is going to be about 1.4%. Assuming that amount, that would be approximately $1.05 million for the board side, roughly the same amount for the constitutional side. It's about $2.1 million of that $2.6 million is already eaten up of the additional stuff. So that leaves about $500,000 of the additional revenue due to growth being able to be allocated for other things. And we're going to continue to present a 1-year budget. That's kind of it's become the norm after 2008 to do 2-year. We used to do 2-year budgets, but since 2008, pretty much everyone does 1 year. So funding considerations, and again, no particular order, we want to make sure we address in some way a master plan for the board and constitutional officers' space needs. Currently, we have an evergreen salary study going on, and we want to, assuming those results come in pretty quick, have some sort of plan to implement that. Long-term sustainable funding for fire services, that's an issue that's going to be, I'm sure you're going to be hearing more and more about in the coming months and years. And then sustainability and funding plan for Coastline. When we gave that presentation a few weeks ago, we discussed how we wanted to have a long-term plan for that. This is a good time now to bring up, there's an opportunity that the Florida statute gives us as a county to approve a resolution for the sheriff, the supervisor of elections, and the clerk of the court to submit their budgets by May 1st of each year, as opposed to June 1st on each year. It helps out the budget office, allows for us to, and we'll go over the calendar here in a minute, if we get those budgets on June 1st, there's a very short turnaround time to add them to the budget, work them in with the other decisions that have been made for the board departments, and present a good quality tentative budget to you. By giving us that extra month, it helps us plan, actually.
So we're going to do that. We're going to have the sheriff and the SOE come in 1 May.
Mr. Chair, as long as you pass the resolution, I have the resolution right here.
Okay.
We can,
I agree. That's a good move. I agree.
and this resolution requests the property appraiser and tax collector to do the same thing. We can't kind of mandate them to do that,
Right.
but,
Got
okay. And I understand that there's a special meeting maybe after this.
We can have a special meeting following this one.
Have you have we had those discussions with the sheriff and that?
Mr. Chair, no, I did not have discussions with the sheriff. All right, so that's kind of it for this portion where we think you guys want to go moving forward and things we want to pay particular attention to in the budget for the FY21. Is there any discussion on that? Questions, additions, subtractions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
A couple things. Is this, what you just showed us, is this online?
It is not online right now, but but we'll have it online. We'll have all the presentations that we give on the website.
Okay. Under agendas, meeting information?
We can do that. We can also add it to the budget webpage too. We can do both.
Because I didn't take notes, but I want to go back and look at it so I can.
Mr. Chair, we'll definitely add them to there, and I think it'd probably be best to have on the budget website, the webpage there, so people just go. We'll put all our stuff on there.
Where do we stand with, I know this is not related to budget necessarily, but where do we stand with the CAFR?
The CAFR for FY19?
Yeah.
We've been working for months to get information together for the clerk in conjunction with the clerk. They've been great to work with. My understanding is that the auditors will be on site at the end of this month. And we have some work we have to do. Like I mentioned earlier, we're half staff. We're at 50% of staffing. But these guys are working their tails off and will continue to do so. I have no doubt about that. And we'll get them, the auditors and the clerk, whatever they need to move forward so that we're taking care of that audit in a timely fashion this year.
June 1st is the deadline, right? It's supposed to be?
I don't know if there's it's June 30th
30th.
is 9 months after the end of the fiscal year. So I think they have that as a deadline, but yeah.
We still hiring the same company?
Mr. Chair, that's correct, yeah. Carl Riggs, Ingram, right?
Oh, it'd be very nice if they came in on time, because they haven't yet.
I would, there's plenty of blame to go around for that, Mr. Chair, including sitting right here. So, but we're going to work real hard. We've been working, the clerk's office has been great, working real hard with us to get them what they need so it doesn't happen again.
Great.
All right, if there's no changes to that, we can go to a very general overview of the development calendar. And the reason for it being general at this point is didn't want to make any hard and fast meeting dates. If any changes were going to be made, messing with everyone's calendar, get it set right up in the beginning and move forward from there. So in January, kind of begins today based on what comes out of this meeting today. And we'll start working with the departments to let them know how we're going to build the budget. February and March, the budget office will work with the departments to create their budgets, get their decision units here, which are increases to requests for their budgets. April, we'll work on the submitted budgets and create other parts of the budget that departments don't touch, like revenues, non-departmental stuff, fund balance, reserves, those kind of things. May 1st, assuming we pass this resolution a little bit, we're going to receive the budgets for the sheriff, the clerk of the court, and the supervisor of elections on May 1st. Subsequent to that, the county administrator is going to conduct his administrator budget hearings, and those are to have open conversations with all the departments in a public forum, everyone in one room, so there's no silo budget creation. And June, the budget office will compile all that information and create the tentative budget to be presented to you.
Are you going to conduct any workshops with the commission during that period?
I may augment the administrator's budget workshop. That's usually about a 3-day process. It will be advertised that one or more commissioners may be there. It allows the public to come in too. There was some concern last year that we didn't get down into the details. We will get down into the details. The directors will justify their budgets in a public setting. The public will be allowed to ask some questions or make some comments. Commissioners will have the opportunity to drill down into any section of the budget that they choose to drill down in. It just makes the budget process a lot more inclusive and transparent to the public, and gives the commissioners a lot more opportunity to drill down into areas that they might have a particular interest in.
What are these meetings going to be called?
Probably the EOC.
No, but I mean, what will we call them? Workshops, or what will we call them?
They'll be called administrators' budget hearings.
Administrative budget, okay.
And that's where my employees justify their budgets to me, but I include the public and commissioners that may want to ask questions about specifics on the budget. It's not a BCC function, it's an administrative function.
All right, so after those administrative budget hearings, the budget office will take all the decisions that were made and put them in the tentative budget to be presented to you. In July, in the beginning of July, we'll bring to the board resolutions for you to set the proposed millage rates, as well as the any assessments that we have going. The part at which the board will get included in the conversation for the budget would be in August. And we can have as many or as few meetings as the board desires. And of course, at any time, any meeting that you guys have, you can, as a body, let us know how you want to go somewhere, a certain direction for the budget. We're not saying there's no input until August, of course. But through the month of August, we have the board fine-tune how they want the budget to be, leading into September, where we have our 2 budget public hearings to adopt the tentative budget, the tentative millage on the first one, and the final millage and the final budget during the second public hearing. That's the calendar kind of in a nutshell. Obviously very general, and we'll bring back to you an actual calendar with dates once we get those established.
Mr. Cameron, do we intend to send out budget guidance to the constitutionals? And if not, why not?
We will be sending out budget guidance to the constitutionals to let them prepare a realistic budget in light of what the resources we will have at our disposal will be.
Well, I think that's important because, you know, what we had to deal with last year. We don't want to do that again.
Well, I expect that there might still be some discussions about where priorities ought to be with regard to the constitutionals and the general fund, but that's just a part of the budget process. But it is just a matter of courtesy to tell them what we expect the resources to be and what the apportionment would probably look like.
Are we going to have the chairman sign that out? I would suggest we do that.
We can do that.
Have the chairman sign the letter.
Yep.
Okay.
Just before you sit down, again, for the first couple of years I was here, we're doing it differently than we did it before. So just bear with me for a second, because we had up to 9 workshops for each section, pretty detailed, back before August and before July. So it seemed to work out okay this past year, the way you did it. I just want to make sure the other commissioners are in agreement. We're not going to do a lot of detailed workshops on this. It's going to be mostly completed work that we're going to see. That's the reality of it. So, we could change it, I agree, but.
Yeah, we're happy to do the budget however you like. I thought that having a system where we got started very early, worked through it, there will be probably some updates along the way for you, but the administrative budget hearing is a pretty intensive process that goes pretty much 8 hours a day for 3 days. And commissioners have the opportunity to come in and out when they want to, based on their particular areas of interest.
But theoretically, those aren't going to be announced BOCC workshops or meetings, right?
We will announce those.
Can more than one commissioner participate in that kind of meeting?
Yes, we will.
Okay,
We will
just want to make sure
advertise it in a
that
way
is-
that one or more, 2 or more commissioners may be in attendance
And speak.
and speaking. Yes.
I'm good with staff doing their job and staying out of the way. Just keep in mind tax decrease. That's my biggest
Well,
focus on everything.
in all candor, realistically, I think another 1/10 of a mil is about all we could anticipate doing and still meet some of the essential requirements of government that we have to do. We're behind the curve on a lot of things, but it was very apparent to me from the beginning that this board is interested in tax conservation and minimizing the impact on our citizens. So this budget reflects that we continue to keep that at the top of our mind as we go forward.
We've just okayed a 5% tax increase. We just did that. So it's there to deal with. We just have to.
So it's pretty much, we're telling you right now what our target is. If you have something different than that, this is a good time to tell
Yeah,
us.
the term is, we're anticipating not going to the fallback rate.
I don't think that, given the shortfalls that you've had in many years here with hurricanes and property tax reforms and depressions, I don't think that you can anticipate in the next few years in getting to a fallback, a rollback rate. But we do want to continue in the right direction, and that's what the 1/10 of a mil represents.
I think the point one is it's in good faith that shows that we're trying to do something, but we are going to have around a 5% tax increase. So, yeah.
The ability to attend the administrative hearings or reviews, if you will, would be more than sufficient for me.
I agree. I think it's a good plan.
I just want to make sure that, that we can participate in those and we can have more than one commissioner there.
Absolutely. I've already spoken with the county attorney about how we handle those things. So we will advertise it correctly, and you will be able to come and participate. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So understanding that the general guidelines that we outlined earlier and the general development calendar, if there's no further or changes to that, we'll move on to the mission statement of Flagler County. We had, apparently we don't have one right now. And so, and it came out through the Leadership Academy and Mr. Cameron's putting on for staff, that we always, decisions that are made, we always want to be able to align our decisions with the values of the community and the board and the mission statement. And when I went to go look at the mission statement, we couldn't dig it out there. So do you mind switching over to the other? While Jared's getting that up for me, there we go. So back in, I guess, October, we asked each department director to nominate someone from their team to participate in a team gathering to get a good foundation of what they felt was important for having a mission statement that the county would put forth. A strong belief for us was that everyone from all different areas of the organization needed to be part of this, as opposed to somebody sitting in an office and just coming up with a statement. To their credit, the directors did a great job, were very responsive, and did a great job nominating people to be part of this process. And actually, we used, I'm going to go along the categorization of the forming, storming, norming, performing model from, I guess that's Bruce Tuckman, we're also familiar with. So in the forming aspect of it, we came together and had a team from all over the county. Amy Stroger, Anita Stroker, Candy Breckenridge, Carly Rodriguez, Gina Friedman, Gina Lemon, Julie Murphy, Kat Friel, Neelan Joseph, Olivia King, Ryan Previtt, Victoria Giselle, and Winnie Costello were all part of that team and showed up in the county administrator's meeting room with papers and notes, and they were ready to go. I didn't have to coax anything out of them. They were ready. So, to show that they put in that time before they even showed up to something showed a lot of dedication from them. And I very much appreciate that. So when we first started coming in the storming phase, folks were really focused on bringing forth things that was important to them from their standpoint and their job with the county. There were, for example, people in growth management were bringing in and saying we have to address growth. It's real important. The people in emergency services were about safety and those kind of things, which is not to take anything away, but they were very myopic in terms of thinking about how things that they only deal with affect the county. So a lot of their, on the board, if you can see there, that, all kind of all over the place a little bit, but as we move forward, you can see that things started coming together, and they started realizing that it wasn't just about any particular department or thing that the county did, that it was the county as a whole, and what our mission statement was to be for every department and all the citizens. So things started, as I progressed, they started getting focused down, and we came out with 4 values that I'll show you in a moment. But I like this picture because they had that simple triangle document had created quite the discussion. The initial point was, the mission's at the top, and the policy is created to support the mission, and the procedures are in place to support the policy, which is in place to support the mission. And one of the team members said it should be upside down, where we create procedures to adjust the policies to address the mission. And we went back and forth on that. It was a very interesting conversation, and I think had some other people kind of rethinking their original thoughts, which is what these types of gatherings are all about. So we started honing down on the 4 important points that the team thought were best, and it boils down to ethics, stewardship, community, and innovation. I'm going to show you an example mission statement to work from. If you like it, great. But if not, and decide to reword it in any way, I would stress that we should focus on those 4 values, because that's, after an hour and a half or so, everyone kind of agreed that those are the 4 most important things to put forth as a county to our citizens. So there's the 4: ethics, stewardship, community, and innovation. Now, back in 2018, the board adopted a strategic plan, and as part of that strategic plan were core values. The core values were service, integrity, accountability, respect, collaboration, stewardship, transparency, and performance. So when I went and looked and kind of cross-referenced to make sure that everything was aligned, I saw that even though there's 4 here, you can see that at some point or another, each of the strategic plan core values are addressed, except for the innovation, but the innovation kind of takes it all together and moves it all together as one. So just as important as any of the others. Took me a long time to do that slide. All right, so the big reveal. So the county mission statement, Flagler County mission is, and we're going to go to my little draft slide. And we're saying if we're going to do a mission statement, we should make sure we stay to those 4. So here's one that's been worked and reworked. It's the Flagler County mission is to efficiently deliver the highest quality customer service focused services and create the greatest value to our community through integrity, innovation, and a culture of collaboration. That statement incorporates all 4 of the core values that the team came together. And it's been, again, worked and reworked and changed around. And this is, I think, a pretty good example. It's a pretty good statement to me. But of course, the board can adjust, amend as you guys see fit. And that's all. We would ask that, if possible, to adopt the mission statement today, and we'll use it going forward.
Just had one comment. I've always felt that safety and security are just basic, a high-value thing that we have to provide our citizens. I think it's kind of in this, but I guess I would have wanted 1 or 2 of those words in here someplace. So just a comment. You guys looked at this hard, but I always looked at safety and security as our number 1 service that we have to provide our citizens.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you could actually add it in there by saying efficiently deliver the highest quality customer-focused services to include safety and security of our citizens and create the greatest value to the community. You could just add that in there.
Just a thought. I mean, as I'm listening to this.
I think the chairman's correct that we've always said that even through that strategic planning process, we focused on safety and security of the residents of Flagler County. So I agree with the chairman that we should maybe stick that in there, and that's a good place to stick it. quality customer-focused services, right, and right after that, to include security and safety of the Flagler County residents and create the greatest value. Mr. Chairman, if you agree.
That's why, you know, I kind of agree, but I'd like to hear from our other board members and any comments back, because you guys looked at this a long time, I know. Comments from? I guess not, okay. O'Brien?
Just trying to study it. You can wordsmith the heck out of these things. Drive yourself crazy.
No, I think it's, John, it's a very good statement, and there's a lot of work went into it, but I just kind of agree with the chairman that we need to stick safety and security in there.
Mr. Chair, absolutely. It's not a problem to add that into the statement. It's a short thing to try to incorporate a lot of stuff.
Right. That's my comment. Yeah, I would agree with the way you changed it.
Well, it's generally included in quality customer-focused services, but you are correct that the fundamental reason for government is security and safety. And if you wish to emphasize that in your mission statement, that's certainly understandable, and that's the right place to put it.
So, okay.
Looks good to me.
Like that, that's fine with me.
Do we need a motion or just by consensus?
Do we have to do that in the next meeting? I don't know.
We could formally adopt it in the next meeting, I think.
We have two things to discuss in the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay. Very well.
You can have consensus now and formalize it in the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, I think we've got consensus on it. All right?
Okay, Mr. Chair, that concludes my portion of the agenda today. Thank you. Appreciate
John.
everyone gathering.
Right. It's, then we now have a short, well, we have a time period for public comment on any of the items that we've discussed at this meeting. Not a whole lot of public here, but anybody who is here is welcome to make any comment they'd like concerning these items we've discussed. Just, no one from the public has come forward. I'll bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I
before
move we adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. We have a second? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. We'll now go on to a second meeting because there have been, well, let me just say, the Flagler County Board of County Supervisors special meeting agenda, Monday, January 13th, here in the Government Services Building. So we'll go on. At this meeting, we'll be allowed to vote on issues or that arose in the meeting prior to this, the workshop. So I'm going to call this meeting to order at this point. Before we go on, again, public comment we're open for public comment. I don't see anybody come forward. So we're now down to item 3 of the special meeting, which is request the board take actions as deemed necessary regarding issues discussed at the workshop. So the first issue is, and I would like, John, could you just state what you want to do as far as the earlier submission for the sheriff and the supervisor of elections?
Mr. Chair, of course. Would you like me just to read the resolution or just the top part of it?
Well, we're going to have to make a motion based on what you say.
Okay.
So,
I asked the board to adopt the resolution to have the sheriff, the clerk of court, and the supervisor of elections submit their annual budget for fiscal year 21 by May 1st of this year and May 1st of every year after that, and to request the tax collector and the property appraiser do the same hopefully they will. If not, we'll get their budgets by June 1st.
Okay, so bring it back to the board for a motion based on John's comments.
So the three that we want on May 1st specifically are the sheriff, the SOE,
And the clerk of court.
and the clerk of courts. And then we want to suggest to the others that they get them in by May 1st.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, that's what the statute says. It allows you to mandate those three by May 1st, but we can't mandate the other two, so.
The only,
we just
the motion is just for
request.
the three. Is that right?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, I move that we notify the clerk of courts, the sheriff, and the SOE that their budgets will be due on May 1st and for 2020 and for every year thereafter.
I'll second for discussion, but I got questions.
We have a motion and a second. I'll back for discussion to the board.
You want to go first, Greg, or you?
No, go ahead.
So I had asked earlier if we had a conversation with, in particular, the sheriff. I don't want to have unnecessary confrontation or put an undue burden. Just help me understand, is this pretty common around, the state? It's not something we've done before. I don't want to get into an adversarial position if we don't have to.
Mr. Chair, of course not. We want to have a great working relation with the sheriff. This is something that was incorporated where I worked previously, and there was no concern by the sheriff there at all. Just was submitted like normal, no issues. I guess I am assuming to a certain extent that our sheriff would feel the same way, but as far as being a month earlier seems like a lot, but I don't think, especially knowing it this early, that it's that much of a burden on them to do it. But of course, communication is key, and
Just flying blind on that because there's no one from the sheriff, or I saw the chief. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Okay. I did see the chief back there, but
Right.
thank you. I apologize.
And any other comments from the commission? Go ahead. I thought you were
And again,
done. I'm sorry.
And my question there was, it's not that the clerk and the SOE are not as important, it's just that the sheriff's budget's the largest, and, the earlier you have to start projecting things, being a financial person, you gotta be a little bit more creative, I guess, but anyway. That's really the only concern or question that I had, so.
Okay. Mr. Mullins? Yeah, when I first heard Mr. O'Brien bring this up, I said, that's right, maybe we should wait and get comment back. But to be honest, I guess in the end, what we're doing is we're saying, this is the board's position. If they have a big heartache with it, I guess they could bring it back to us. Sometimes when you force a decision, you get an honest response, where if you just say, would you like this or not, you might not get the same response. So it's a management technique. That's basically what it comes down to. Okay. I don't have anything further. So we have a motion and a second. We asked for.
Can you public comment on that?
I'm going to do
I'm
it
sorry?
now. And so any further public comment? We did have one comment on this, and so seeing no one else arise, so bring it back for a vote on the motion to set May 1st, if I'm correct, as the date for those three constitutional
Mr. Chair.
officers for their budget submission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. And we have one more item that came up during the workshop, and that concerned the mission statement. And I'm looking for,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the mission statement as modified.
need a second? I can't do the second.
Second.
I could. Okay, we have a motion and a second concerning the mission statement. I'll open it up for public comment at this point. See no additional comment. Bring it back to the board for a vote. All those in favor of the mission statement as amended and seen on our computers at this point, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And again, that is passed unanimously. With that, those are the items we were going to discuss at this meeting unless there's something else urgent that needs to be.
Chairman, I
brought forward.
move we adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.